I'm Brandon Poe, and this is the Accountant's Flight Plan podcast, where you can enjoy engaging conversations about mergers and acquisitions and accounting practice management. Listen in on strategies to build a more fun and valuable accounting firm.
Hey, this is Liesl. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Accountant's Flight Plan. We've got a special offer for our listeners. If you want to save $250 on Accounting Practice Academy, our 8-week practice management workshop, use the promo code POD250 when you submit your application and start building a practice you would buy.
Welcome to the Accountant's Flight Plan podcast. I have a very special guest, Jason Ackerman, who is actually his firm does the accounting and tax work for our company. And Jason owns a CPA firm called BNA CPAs and Advisors based out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. Jason's a frequent contributing writer to the CPA Journal and is a Zero Advisory Council alumni. He enjoys golfing and going to fancy restaurants with his wife, Yvonne.
And you sometimes.
And me, that's right. We have gone to a really nice restaurant here in Charleston. Yeah. I didn't know you were a foodie. We're kind of foodies too. So a little bit about BNA. They specialize in helping professional service firms and tech companies run better businesses. They have a team of professionals that provide tax, accounting, and consulting services to small business owners and individuals throughout the Carolinas and the U.S. And their website is bnacpa.com. Welcome, man. I'm excited because, it's a little addition to the intro is you've been our accountant for, how long has it been? It's been several years now. And so a little bit about why I switched accountants. We started Accounting Practice Academy in 2020, and I would encourage accountants to kind of do more advisory work with their clients and do more quarterly consults and things like that. And I said, I'm not doing that with my accountant, and I need to find somebody that I can do that because as I'm telling people it's valuable. If it's valuable, I should be doing it. And so I'm gonna take my own advice. And I also was curious about Xero as a software, and I thought, what better way than to learn about it a little bit than to use it. So you at the time, Jason, I don't know if you know this, but you were the only Xero partner that I could find on Xero's website that was in South Carolina. Yeah. So are you still, is that still the case?
Hopefully not, but could be.
Yeah. So, what I noticed about Xero firms is they tend to be like cutting edge, a little bit more entrepreneurial. They had really not just that as a good technology, but they had just better tech stacks in general. And that had been my observation in the marketplace. So I wanted to try it. And man, it's been great. We've been meeting quarterly for a couple of years now. And, it's just funny how those little conversations can pop up some really interesting opportunities that you see that I didn't see. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm glad I reached out to you when I did.
Well, yeah, it's been fun. You were on QuickBooks Desktop before?
I was on desktop. Yeah, you really brought me to the new century here.
Hey, we're still doing that now. I mean, it's but yeah, I think it's been cool to, we knew about your business beforehand, but for me, one thing I like is I get to talk with a lot of business owners, and it's cool to talk with a business owner that's, you're a CPA, but you don't really do CPA stuff. You sell CPA firms, and you also have an awesome academy that you've developed that actually our COO went through, that she really enjoyed it. And I recommend anybody who's listening to this, if you haven't done that, sign up for Accounting Practice Academy, especially if you're a traditional firm and you're looking for a way to shift your mindset. Accounting Practice Academy is great. But yeah, it's cool for me to talk with you quarterly, and kind of you give me what's kind of going on from your side of the profession, and then I can give you some advice. So it works both ways. And I learn just as much from clients as hopefully you're learning from me. And yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah, it's been really good. So I'd love for our guests to know a little bit about you, personally. So why did you choose to go into accounting, and just kind of how you got to where you are now?
Yeah. So I think like a lot of people that have been on your podcasts, I was just listening to Catherine Tyndall's podcasts like right before this that you did. My dad is a CPA. My dad actually started our firm. BNA stands for Bernard and Ackerman. That's his initials. So he started the firm in 1977. So I grew up in an accounting family. My mom actually had her own business. She had a market research firm. Um, my parents worked a lot. I was like, that's dumb. I don't want to do that, like most people say. But when I got to college, I went to NYU in New York, and I got into the business school. I knew I wanted to do something in business. I've always I like I wanted to always do something to help people, I think. I didn't want to it was kind of like a process of elimination. I didn't want to do medicine because every time that I take blood, I faint. So I was like, that's not going to work out for me. The
Yeah.
legal world, I just didn't like, it just didn't appeal to me that much, but I thought there's definitely ways you can help that way. And so I got into the business school at NYU, and I knew I wanted to do something in business. And at that time, it was either you majored in finance, which you went like the Wall Street route, investment banker route, and all those guys were kind of douchey. So I was like, I don't know if I want to wear a suit and read the Wall Street Journal every day. And then marketing, people weren't getting jobs. So I was like, okay, I'm going to I'll do accounting. Because if I get my CPA, that's a ticket to a job for life. Like, you know, I'll always have a job, and there's so many different avenues you can go on as a CPS. Probably, people who listen to this are CPS. I don't need to go over all that. So I was like, oh, I'll be a CPA. And I remember calling my dad, who's a CPA, still works here. And he was like, are you sure you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, I think it's a good idea. So I worked at, I went, my dad was like, you can't come work with me right away, which I think was the best advice he ever gave. He's like, you need to go work for another firm. So I worked at KPMG in New York for a few years in their partnership tax division. And then I came back. I was contemplating doing a transfer with them to California. I was like, I want to live in California. And my dad's getting older. He's 73 now. At the time, he was early 60s. And I was like, I need to come back here, see if I want to take over the firm one day. Because if not, he needs a transition plan. He didn't really have a transition plan at the time. So I came back, and I really enjoyed it. And when I came back in 2012, we were under a $2 million firm. We were probably 1.6, 1.7. We had maybe 12, 13 employees. And now we're hopefully we're going to hit 6 million this year. And we've got 35-ish employees, including a wealth side. My brother runs our wealth practice. So it's cool for me. I get to work with my family, which can be good or bad, but for
Yeah.
me, like I get to work with my dad. I get to work with my brother. My mom manages we have a 5-story building in Rock Hill. So Rock Hill's right outside Charlotte for the listeners who don't know where Rock Hill is.
Hmm.
So we've got a little 5-story building here. My mom manages the building. So it's a good family experience, and that's how we run our business too, is we try to run it as a family atmosphere. And I think if you ask most of our team members, like, what do they like most about working with us, other than some stuff we'll get into a little bit, I think just like our culture of, family first. We always put our family first, and I think that's
Yeah.
why we've been successful.
Yeah, it's a lot like our business. A lot of people don't know, but my daughter works in our business. Her last name is Ball now, and my wife works in the business. So it's it doesn't always work for everyone, but it's worked really well for us. And I think one of the smartest things your dad did was sent you off to KPMG because he probably didn't want to break you in.
Well, I think it's very important, especially if you're in a family business, and there's a ton of people listening who either their parents are CPAs, or they're working as a CPA, or they have kids maybe that are thinking about being a CPA. Like, you have to work for somebody else, because you have to. You're for me, like, I think I would have potentially always regretted not knowing like something else, but also just getting a different perspective,
Yeah.
and realizing that it's not so bad what your parents say. Like, if they, so
Yeah.
I think that's very important, and um, it definitely paid off for me.
Yeah. It was a decision I had a hard time with my daughter. She doesn't have an accounting background, but she's got a communications degree and marketing background. And I really struggled. She wanted to come to work right after school, and I talked to some other people, got advice, and the people that I trust the most are like, I think it's really better if they don't. Like, if it's better if they go and work for someone else, and learn those just basic disciplines of working. And yeah, so I think that's a great decision. Well, I want to kind of turn over to some other topics now. What are your thoughts about titles? You talk about firm culture. Um, I know you kind of have a little bit of a different sort of
Yeah.
angle on
So,
titles. So
so I think, one big thing, and my dad, the great thing about working for my dad and taking over from my dad is we are very lockstep in how we think and what we want. And we've always, from a very early on, and my grandparents owned a clothing store. So they were very customer focused. We've always been from the very beginning, like, how do you put the customer first? Like, that's, if we had a North Star, or like a central thing, it's like everything we do is, how can we make our customer experience better? How can we help the customer? And I think that's why I got in, kind of what I was talking about before. That's why I got into being a CPA. Like, I want to help people. Like, all I do all day is help people, which is exciting, exhausting, everything, but like, I'm helping people all day. And so part of that for me is like, how can I build a firm that you can take away all the other crap? So, like, there's so much crap in businesses, and the bigger you get, the more crap there is.
yeah,
So, like, I want our team members to feel like, I want them spending all their time helping clients and customers. Like, I don't want them spending time on other stuff. So, like, stuff when I worked at KPMG, that I was like, I'm spending a lot of time keeping track of time. So, like, I'm doing a timesheet for every 6 minutes. Like, I don't remember half the stuff I do. Half of it's crap. So I'm like, why do we need timesheets? Like, what's the point of a timesheet? Like, the uh the input is not accurate. Um, and we're managing based off of inaccurate data, because a lot of firms manage their time, their whole practice on time. And if you're doing the timesheets, and everyone says they keep track of their time, right, but they don't. They literally look at the budget, and whatever the budget is, that's what they're going to hit. Whether it's 12 hours or 24 hours, like, for some reason it always winds up being that they hit their budget. So
yeah,
when I came back, one of my first jobs was like, I told my dad, I was like, we got to get rid of time. How are you going to get rid of time? So the first thing we did was we did fixed price agreements. I started in 2012 in October. By 2013 in September, we had decided to get rid of timesheets. Like, we just, after the extension deadline of October 15th last year, we just dropped our timesheets. So no more timesheets. And then we had to go to fixed billing. So we basically converted all of our clients over to a yearly subscription model, where they sign an agreement every year, and we charge them either monthly or yearly for the work that we're doing. So that's been amazing. We've been on it for, this is our 11th year now. So we were a very early adopter of this. Like, all the
yeah,
firms are now catching up to value billing, but most firms still keep track of time, because they just won't get rid of the timesheet. They might go to value billing, but they keep the time.
So
So
yeah, so I want to ask you about that. I want to dig in on that because in Academy we advise people to abandon the timesheet and switch to value pricing. And I get so much pushback on people like, well, how do you know if your team is efficient? Like we use that information, we use that time to like, what if a
yeah,
job takes more time than you think and you're not billing enough? Like we use that information. It's almost like they just can't let go of the data. They're just so obsessed with knowing how much time things take that they can't let go of it. So what's the value? Is there any value in that stuff? And it just is outweighed by what you gain by letting go of it, or is it really just useless information? Because I feel like if you're not making money on a job or if an employee's not performing, you kind of just know that. Like everybody knows if you're paying attention at all, you understand that.
yeah. So um this is like the number one question that anyone ever asks me.
Yeah.
And I think for you in Accounting Press Academy, you have 4 KPIs that you track. You gross income, net income, vacation
Days off,
hours, and what's the last one?
days
I always
off,
forget the
and head count.
head count. Yeah. So like that's all you need to know to run a firm.
Yeah.
If it and here's us accountants, we love numbers. We love them. Oh my God, we love them. We love spreadsheets. Oh boy, it's like I can't spell my name, but I can tell you the first 100 digits of pi. Like I love numbers, but what you measure is what's important to you. So if you're going to measure time, that's what you're telling your team and your customers. Like that's what's important. Whereas what's important is getting the customer stuff. Like time actually makes you less efficient because if you're charging by the hour, you want stuff to take longer. So you want a tax return, you want to spend 10 hours on a tax return. Well, why don't I just charge $2,000 for that tax return? It takes me 30 minutes. Like, so just inherently, like, and the customer doesn't care how long stuff takes. Like, no one has ever said to me, you only took 30 minutes on that tax return. Like, why are you charging me $2,000? Like, no one's ever said that because
No one's watching you with time stop.
Every other industry, like you go buy a car, it's a fixed price. You go to the grocery store, it's a fixed price. You can't like haggle. It's like, no, it took you 4 minutes to make that pizza. Like I should pay you 13 cents a minute or something. I don't know. So
Yeah.
like the customer is like trained for, and the customer prefers a value price. Like they want to know what the price is up front. They don't want to go to a mystery bill and say, hey, I'm gonna, we're gonna charge you $250 an hour or $500 an hour or whatever. That also discourages communication. So like if I'm a customer and I know I'm going to get charged $250 an hour, like I don't want to talk to you because it's going to cost me. But if I charge you $5,000 and you have unlimited communication, it's like, hey, that's going to start a conversation and that's going to form our relationship better. And that's the key, like what you were talking about, what we do quarterly. Like, hey, we're basically having a conversation, but out of that conversation comes lots of planning opportunities. And so I think just time in general, the timesheet gets you away from talking to the customer and giving the customer a good experience. So your team members, like, even though they might be telling you they are like, oh yeah, I'm 100% being honest on everything, they're not. Because they just like they don't remember half the stuff. Like they're busy all day and they're trying to remember what they did and working, and like it's not going to be 100% accurate. And that's like the generous way of looking at it. The ungenerous way of looking at it is my budget. Yeah, my budget was 12 hours, so I'm going to hit the budget at 12 hours, and I'm going to take 4 hours to do it. I'm going to take 20 hours to do it. So you don't really know the profitability of your stuff. The best thing to do is to do an action item, like you kind of alluded to, like, if you're making money or not. And making money, it's like it's all made up. It's like, hey, you make up your billing rate, right? you charge $250 an hour. Well, why aren't you charging $400 an hour? Like, why aren't you charging $500 an hour? Like, it's what the market can bear. So you're trying to get a value price based on what the customer, what it's worth it to them,
Yeah.
and what you think is reasonable. So, like, something's going to be made up along the way. But just dropping it just frees up everything. And yeah, some clients you're not going to make money on, and that's okay. You're going to price wrong. That's okay. Like, you're going to make mistakes. That's how you learn, and that's how you grow, and that's how you get better at pricing. So it's just, you have to be able to let go of not knowing everything. Like, you can't know everything that's happening in your business. You can't micromanage. Like, if you try to micromanage everybody, especially when you get 35 people, like, I can't know every second of every day what everyone's doing. But I can look at the big numbers, like, hey, their revenue was this, their cost is this. Like, I talk with them. Like, a big thing that people don't like, a timesheet is a barrier to talking with your team members, because you're just like, oh, what are they working on? Oh, I'm just gonna look at their timesheet, instead of, oh, what are they working on? Let's go walk over there and talk to them, or let's call them up on the phone, or let's chat them on GChat, or whatever you guys are using. Like, communication is key with the client, with your team. You have to communicate all day. Like, that's, as a manager, as a owner, that's what you should be doing all day. It's like communicating. I like when I feel like I'm not doing a good job with my team is when I'm too focused on the work, and I'm not focused on the team and like communicating with them. So I think that's like, I see that all the time from other firms.
Yeah.
And they wonder why they can't keep people. It's like, why would anyone want to work for, like, I'm a professional. I don't want someone knowing what I'm doing every 6 minutes of the day. Like, I should be trusted to do my job properly. I'm not working at McDonald's for $12 an hour.
Right.
Like, I'm working at a CPA firm. You're paying me between $75,000 and $200,000 to work for my team, or more, or whatever. Like, I should be trusted, and I should be trusted to get my work done. I should be trusted to do it when I want to do it. And like, as long as I get my work done, why do you care if I do it at 10 o'clock at night, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Like, why do you care? And you shouldn't care.
Right. It's, yeah, you're preaching you're preach on, preach on, preacher.
Hey y'all, Ian chiming in here again to let you know that we've announced the start dates for the 2024 sessions of Accounting Practice Academy. We're running it on May 24th, July 26th, and September 27th. APA, if you don't know, is an 8-week virtual workshop and an incredible resource for firm owners who need to get their hours down without affecting their bottom line. Most owners who take the workshop actually see a significant increase in profitability while reducing their hours. I know it sounds crazy, but dig into the workshop details on our website and check out some of our testimonials. So if you want to learn more, visit accountingpracticeacademy.com. Thanks for listening, and now back to the episode.
Question: what do you think about, and I don't know if you paid much attention to this, but
I never talked about titles too. Like, so your question was on titles. I went on a whole tangent, but another, before you ask me the next question, the reason why we don't do titles is another thing I learned at KPMG was, like, I was an associate or a senior associate. Like, if I wrote a client that and they just saw like associate, like, I felt like I wasn't as important as a partner writing you. So I felt like I was less than. Like, I want people at our firm to feel like they can contribute from day one, whether they're a 16-year-old high school intern that we have, or like, me or whomever. Like, everyone should be able to contribute. If you see something that's wrong with one of our systems, or wrong with the way we do something, like, I want you to be able to say that. Also, I want you to be able to feel like from day one, you can talk to a client and be able to provide them value just as I can provide them value. The younger people, the 18, 19-year-olds, like, yeah, they might not have the technical knowledge, but they know about technology, and they can like help clients immensely right off the bat. So I wanted them to feel like they're equal to me. Also, in our office, like, everyone has an office. Like, we don't have cubicles. Everyone has the same size office. Like, my office here is the same size as everybody else's office here. We did that on purpose because I want everyone to feel like they're equal in the same footing. Like, and I don't feel like, as the owner, I should have 10 times as big of an office space as somebody for no reason. Like what my job is just as important as an intern's job. They're doing different stuff, but it's just as important. So that's kind of our whole thing of no titles.
Yeah. How long have you been doing it that way?
So, my dad really never had titles. It was more organic. But we kind of, started formalizing that, around the same time we did no timesheets.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, how about let me change the subject just a little bit. Have you been paying very much attention to private equity and their influence? Do you feel like they're going to influence the profession in a big way? I'm seeing it from my angle. I'm just wondering what you're seeing.
Well, I think, we're obviously there's a big shortage of talent for a lot of different reasons. I've got my thoughts on that, but there's definitely a private equity. They see a way to make more money, and basically like the value that a CPA provides is immense. Like I know almost more about you than maybe your wife knows about you in a lot of ways. So like the information that we have is valuable, and the relationships that we have are valuable. And that's only going to be more valuable going forward, as our world gets more and more complex. Like this podcast, people are listening to this all over the world. You're selling practices all over the world. Like before, 20 years ago, you couldn't do that. Like, so the world is getting flatter, smaller, but with that, lots more complexities in accounting and tax. And like the tax code just gets more and more complex all the time. And you need someone like us to do that. And there's just a void. There's a huge void of good practitioners out there. There's, and a lot of it is like, I think private equity sees that.
They see it. They see it. Yeah, and they see an opportunity to bring a professional there. I think they will attempt to professionalize it, make it more of a business, and capture more of that value. I think that's what they're trying to do, and they see
Yeah.
it. They definitely see the value of it all. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, most of us, including ourselves, don't charge enough. Like we need to charge a lot more for our services. The value that we're giving clients is immense, and we're not charging enough for it. And there's a lot, like people are going to pay for this service, and we do a terrible job. Like one of your questions is probably going to be like, what's the biggest challenge? And the biggest challenge is education at every level. And it starts with the public. Like we do a terrible job in this country of educating about finance. Like you go to high school and you take 4 math classes, and you take 4 English classes, and you take 4 social studies classes, and you might take 1/4 of one class might be on finance. Like maybe, but probably even not that. So like,
yeah,
something that's super practical that everyone has to deal with, which is managing money. What are taxes? Like just basics of finance. Like no, 95%. Yeah.
Understanding interest rates and what you're
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just accounting and finance. We do a terrible job of this country of teaching. Most people have no idea anything about it.
Even very successful entrepreneurs don't have.
Oh yeah,
enough
most business owners have no clue what's going on. Like no clue. It's super smart people. Like most tech people who are very smart and programmers, so they have no clue because it's not super rational. The tax code isn't like super rational. Like a congressman wanted a law and they did it, and it's been pieced together all over this time. Like it's hard for people to get their heads around that, especially if you're used to doing something else. So like, yeah, education is our biggest thing. And also I think back to pricing and something I deal with all the time. It's like, hey, so we don't educate our people about what finance are. We don't educate people like what like the general public, a lot of them don't know what a CPA firm does or like what I do, like how I can help you. Like I have to spend a lot of time talking with them why you need to hire me, like how I can save you money, like why, like, hey, I think my tax return should be $400 because that's what I get at H&R Block, or that's what my old CPA was charging. CPAs are still charging $250 for a tax return. It's nuts. So I spend a lot of my time telling customers like, hey, this is how we're going to, like, we're a value add. Like, I'm going to save you more money than what you're going to pay me. But I have to like explain that to you. And it's not super tangible right off the bat. Like, hey, I can't, it might not be like, hey, you pay me, I'm going to save you $20,000 right up front. Sometimes it works that way, but a lot of times it's like, hey, I'm going to form this relationship. And when I talk with you and over time, by making good financial decisions, you're going to save a lot of money.
Right.
And so, but the general public has like, we're trained, especially my generation. It's like everything was free. Like I got, my email for free. I sign up all this stuff for free. All the startups, the thing was like, hey, this is going to be free, but I'm going to sell with your data on the back end or whatever. And we went through that phase for 15 years of like everything was free. Well, so people think like, hey, I should be able to do my tax return for free, or like the tax return is easy. Like I just have a W-2 and a brokerage statement. Like it's easy. Yeah, it maybe, probably not. I see every time I see someone do a TurboTax return, 95% of the time it's wrong, but maybe you could do it right. But yeah, there's not a lot of training, and education. So like, to me, it starts in the high schools. Like we need to get like an AP accounting course should be like the number one priority of this entire profession. And the AICP has been working on that for a while and they've never been able to get it done for who knows what reason, but like that should be number one. We need our brightest high school kids taking, like most of the best high school kids, including myself. It's like I have to take AP classes in order to get the proper GPA so I can go to the school that I want to go to. Well, if we don't have that, they're not going to be taking that course. So we're not going to get them in high school learning about accounting. And then when we go to college, where we've made the profession where you have to basically do 5 years now, which, 5 years, people have to pay an extra $50,000 to $70,000 to get a master's degree. I mean, that's insane. Why would you want to do that when I can go work? I could go in investment banking. I could go work for a bank and make more money than an accountant. And, the CPA is going to pay off in the long run, but it's hard to tell a 19-year-old that they should major in accounting and go that extra year and pay an extra $70,000, forego an extra $100,000. That's $170,000 that they're having to pay to become a CPA. Like that's not rational. The way we teach accounting in college, we teach it like it's 1950. Most of the courses are cost accounting and like stuff that we like we're starting to get technology in the curriculum, but like we're not doing a good job. Like people right off the bat coming to work for us, like they have very little skill that applies to what we do.
Yeah.
Like there's no training being done at college. Like they're getting a degree in accounting and they can go like maybe do minor bookkeeping. Like it's more of a bookkeeping, like we're teaching bookkeeping. Like we're not teaching stuff that's applicable. So that whole thing needs to be redone. And then once they go work in an accounting firm, then more of the time we work you to death in the first 2 years and then you leave the profession. So
Yeah.
like like when I worked at KPMG, it was like most people work 18 months. Like I lasted 3 years. That was most people last 18 months. Like my friends that went to investment banking, when I started at KPMG in New York, I was making $62,000 a year. My buddies started at investment banking. They were making 80, 90, and then they were getting a $90,000 bonus. My bonus was $4,000 and I was working the same exact hours that they were working. So like something is very messed up with the profession in general. And we're not we're not like we're we're blaming everybody but ourselves. We have to look in the mirror and we have to say, hey, we have to change as a profession. Like it's not, and that's where private equity, that's where they see an opening. They're like, hey,
Yep.
these people are freaking terrible at running their own profession. I can come in and run
Exactly.
it better.
That is exactly it. You just basically summarize their thought process.
like
And
they see like these big four firms. First of all, their products that they're putting out are terrible. If you look at like audit reviews, like, you know, the audits are terrible. Like the product is terrible. They're charging a bunch of money. Yeah, I could go in there as a private equity and completely turn this thing around. So yeah, I get it.
it's going to change the profession, though. It might be the change that we need, but it might not be the change we want.
Yeah, and the other big problem, like we have set up the profession in a partnership model, which is basically, you know, we have ownership via partnership, and that a partnership in general is not conducive to quickly changing things. And as you know, our industry is changing rapidly, technology is changing rapidly, and as a like you have to be able to adapt and change. And partnerships for like two partners to agree on anything is like very
Yeah.
hard to get 50 people to agree on something, to get 100 people to agree on something. So what I think is interesting are the firms that are going towards the ESOP model or the Seaport model. I think that's like
Yeah.
where the profession is going, and like, you know, the private equity route, like, hey, we're not having all these partners have voting rights, and like, no, that's not going to work. Like we're gonna we're gonna have a corporate structure and we're gonna run it like a corporation.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the profession needs to go to. I like for our firm, like what I would want to do, like my distant future plan is like I want to turn this into an ESOP. I think an ESOP's a great, like, that's what BDO just did. And I think it's a very cool concept to have everybody have ownership in your firm, from the secretary or, you know, the admin person up to, you know, someone like me. Like I think we should all have equity, because,
Yeah.
you know, if the firm does better, everyone should do better.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cool
Interesting. Well, we
concept.
don't have a whole lot of time, so I want to close off with two questions, two last ones.
Okay.
One,
I told you I was gonna come hot, I was gonna come in hot today.
you came in hot today, Jason. You're delivering. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Story. What's the craziest or wildest, maybe funny story, career story you have that you share?
Oh man, there's so many. My dad's always like, I'm gonna write a book. Um, let me see. I think like one of my favorite stories was a client, and it was they came into the office and they were dating at the time. And you know, part of like tax planning is like, you know, you either file jointly or separately. Like getting married could be a tax play. So I was sitting there with my dad. This was like what early on, and my dad was like, "So are you guys planning on getting married anytime soon?" And the guy kind of looked over and he's like, starts shaking his head. He's like, "I don't think so." And then the girl just kind of looked at him, and within 2 weeks they were engaged.
So your dad proposed for them. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
I think my dad got the engagement happening a little quicker than what the guy was anticipating.
That's pretty funny. All right, final question. A book. Do you have a book? Really
A
good book.
book. Yeah, so um I think the books you put out are great. I read those. I don't, you know, I'm not a big reader. I do a lot of podcasts. So I'll give you a couple podcasts that I like. Not
Okay.
necessarily in accounting, because I like to, I don't do a lot of accounting. I do listen to a few. But I actually like Blake Oliver's podcasts. I'm totally blanking on the name right now. So I
The
apologize.
Cloud Accounting
Yeah,
Podcast.
their podcast is good. I read a lot of the Internal Revenue Code, which I guess is not that exciting. But yeah, I just listen to political podcasts because there's always like, the politics obviously plays a lot into the tax. So I listen to the Gabfest. I listen to Bill Simmons. I listen to sports podcasts. That
Have you checked
that's
out the one? Oh gosh, I can't think of it. It's oh well. Oh well. It escapes me. Maybe it'll come to me after I hit pause on this recording. But all right. Well, cool, Jason. Well, um how can people best follow you online or check you out?
oh man, I'm trying to get off social media, but I'm tax pug. So
Okay.
I have we used to have 2 puds, now we only have 1 pud. So I'm tax pug on Instagram and Twitter or X now. I don't post that much. Our website's bnacpa.com. And that's probably the best way. Or just if you have a question, the best thing is just to email me, jason@bnacpa.com. I'll get back to you.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thanks for joining us. This has been a great conversation, and I'm sure our listeners got a lot of value.
Yeah, great being on here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Accountant's Flight Plan podcast. You can keep the momentum going by subscribing and sharing your thoughts with us. Visit our website at pogroupadvisors.com for more resources, and tune in next time for more exciting conversations like this one.